Welcome, Brookline property lovers. This is Shira Steinberg from Brookline Daily Homes, and today we'll be looking at one condominium and discussing an interesting issue that relates to condominiums. So without further ado, let's look at the property. The property is located at 25 Green Street. It's unit number 1. It's on the market for $585,000. It has 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. It's on the first floor. And I'll point out that in most places, a first floor, if you were standing by the window looking out and somebody was standing on the street outside looking in, you'd be eye to eye. Whereas many of the buildings in Brookline have what we call a high first floor, meaning it's a good few feet up. It's about half a floor. So rather than being at ground level, you're half a floor up, and you have good privacy, but you don't have to go up too many steps. The school is the Devotion School. The unit is located in the Coolidge Corner neighborhood, and in fact, it's literally around the corner from Coolidge Corner, meaning the intersection of Harvard and Beacon Streets. So it's quite in the heart of the neighborhood. It has 9-foot ceilings, renovated bathrooms. The kitchen was renovated in 2009. It has a large pantry and a sunroom. It also has parking that's transferable, meaning that the owner of the rental parking has agreed to definitely rent it to the buyer of this unit. They don't have to go looking for parking and hope they find it. They've found it already if they want it. It's 1,488 square feet, and condo fee is $465. There are 24 units in the complex, and 22 of them are owner-occupied. That's what we're going to come back and discuss. Okay, let's take a look at the pictures. The kitchen has beautiful light wood cabinets. I believe they're maple. It has stainless steel stove, stainless steel fridge. It has an island made out of the same cabinetry as around the walls, with a granite countertop and granite countertops around the walls again. Next room is the dining room. It has molding around the ceilings, molding around the floor, French doors, moldings on the wall, which are called shadow moldings, and they're reminiscent of old French houses and palaces. There's a fair amount of them in the area, and they're a very lovely design element. Now, through this door to our left, we would get to the living room, which is over here. And it's large, it's front-facing. The detail and the floors are in good condition and appealing, just like in the rest of the unit. There's a gracious entry foyer that actually has some more shadow molding. Then we have the master bedroom, which leads also to the sun porch. So the sun porch is private to the master for relaxing, possibly exercising, possibly an office. And the second bedroom, we've got an up-to-date washer-dryer in the unit. Here's a picture of the sunroom that's off the master bedroom, and it's really quite pleasant with so much light and a view of trees. And finally, we have the outside of the building, which is a relatively light color brick. It was built in 1920. You have some nice ornate detail around the doorway. It's set back a bit from the street. I think these are the windows of the unit. That is an example of the high first floor. And it's hard to see, but there are only 3 floors to the building, yet the condo association has 24 units because it's much more of a horizontal than a vertical development. Okay, let's talk about owner occupancy. As I mentioned earlier, the owner occupancy for the association is 22 out of 24 units. That comes out to just about 92%. And what that means is There are 2 units in the complex that are rented out by the individual owners of those 2 units, and all the other units, all the other 22 units, are each lived in by the person who owns it, who bought the condo. Now, why do we care about owner occupancy? We care about it for 2 main reasons. Tenants still get a bad rap because of younger tenants who um, party a lot. A quote unquote grown up who finally owns their home doesn't want to feel like they're living in a um, college frat house. The other main reason that we care about owner occupancy is because the bank cares about owner occupancy, the banks that give mortgages. So if you need a mortgage, and most people do, most people can't pay cash, then you need to care about owner occupancy because it has to be high enough so that the bank will give you a mortgage. There are 2 questions. One is, how high does it have to be? Now, that varies from loan to loan and from bank to bank. Um, you need to talk to a mortgage banker about that, someone who sees your credit score and your income and your assets and knows how many points you have in your favor with those things. Will have a better idea of how low an owner occupancy you can support and still get a loan. Usually under 50% owner occupancy presents a problem. Could be you'll have to put down a huge down payment. Could be that you'll really just not be able to get financing or get financing at a rate that's competitive. So 50 is a big benchmark, but in many cases, 60% owner occupancy or 70% are what's required to get a loan or a mortgage or to get one that has a good mortgage rate. Now, the other question is, why does the bank care about owner occupancy? And I think that the main reason is a question of risk. When the bank lends someone money, they're worried about the risk of not getting paid back. Now, it's not a difficult topic to illustrate in these days when there have been so many foreclosures. And what kind of risks do banks look at and look at more closely now that there's been such a bad experience? They look at the risk of the buyer and they look at the risk of the property. So when it comes to the buyer, it's the things I just mentioned: your assets, your debt, your credit score, your down payment. And when it comes to the risk of the condo association itself, one of the biggest things they look at is owner occupancy. The reason is because if you live in a property and you're having tough times financially, your first priority is going to be to pay your mortgage and keep a roof over your head. However, if you have an investment property and you're having trouble paying your bills, the investment property isn't going to be your first priority. The property where you live is going to be your first priority, and your investment property is going to be a much lower priority. So if a building is filled with renters, that means it's filled with investors who are renting it out to those renters. And those investors are all going to be concerned more about their home than about this investment unit. And the bank is afraid that they're going to get stuck with a loan to you in a building where people are not going to be paying their condo fees. And that leads to problems because then there isn't money to take care of the building, and the bank doesn't want that kind of a problem. So with that, I'd like to give credit to the people who made this possible. Susan Ganella Sarazin from Coldwell Banker was kind enough to let us talk about and show her listing, and the MLS Property Information Network was kind enough to let us use their system. And of course, we have to mention that the information in the listing was gathered from third-party sources, including the seller and public records, and MLS and its subscribers disclaim any and all representations or warranties as to the accuracy of the information. Having done that, I'd like to thank you for joining me. I hope you'll join me again next week. From Brookline, this is Shira, your Brookline blogging broker. It's a wrap.